Good afternoon. Today we're going to discuss Magnolia grandiflora, or southern magnolia. And I'm scanning up. This is a large native specimen at the front corner of my landscape. When we talk about southern magnolia, we're looking at the leaf arrangement, the leaf form, and the margin. The leaf arrangement is alternate. You can see that it's staggered along the stem. The leaves are simple. It's a singular leaf, and the margin is entire. This is considered a tree, broadleaf and evergreen. It is large. The form is naturally pyramidal. This plant is native all over the state of North Carolina. It is not especially picky about soil or moisture. When it comes to pruning, the main recommendation is that you don't limb up this tree. You allow its branches to cascade down to the ground because of this. These trees shed a tremendous amount of leaf litter. They shed their cones, which are the aggregate fruit that they produce. You can see down here, that's those. They will tip layer over time. If you look in here, you can see the very vertical shoots coming straight up. That is where branches, lower branches of this tree have actually cascaded down, touched the ground, and where they touched the ground, they actually produced roots. And so now they are putting on vertical growth again to even grow further. So they'll almost colonize because of their ability to do that. But do not limb up. These are super trashy. My first job in the industry, I worked for Pinehurst Resort. We had a large southern magnolia on the front lawn of the Carolina Hotel that was limbed up, and I picked up leaves from that plant 365 days of the year. Growth rate is considered slow to average. Exposure to light is sun to partial. And as you can see here at my house, this one is definitely, it's competing. It's close to the same height as the pines that surround it, but it's definitely in that partial exposure. It's not a full sun exposed plant. Climactic hardiness zones are 7, 8, and 9. Landscape uses. This is a great plant that is a specimen, a screen, or even you can see them used as espalier. We have a few specimens on the front of Steed Hall. The flowers are showy. I'm going to turn around here and show you an example. The flowers are showy late spring to early summer most often. We do have a cultivar that's known to bloom later, but they are creamy white. This one just hasn't quite opened, but they do open fully. But they tend to bloom, like I said, late spring, early summer. They are showy. They're fragrant. To me, they smell like lemon pledge. And they are, like I said, creamy white. The fruit is considered profuse. I have another example here with the fruit. Excuse the blurriness as I move around. So this is the fruit. We often call these a cone, but they really are an aggregate fruit. So each one of these is a follicle that has the potential to be fertilized and produce a seed. So this one isn't quite mature. It's still kind of green and fuzzy, but they do ripen and get almost rosy in color. And then they break open and they have these bright red seeds that hang out from the fruit. So they are really quite stunning, and squirrels actually love to eat the seeds that come out of the fruit. For autumn color, let me give you, these are often 3 to 5 inches long and not edible. Autumn color is insignificant. Leaf texture is considered coarse. And other leaf details, there's often a rusty pubescence on the backs of the leaves. I'm going to revisit this when we get to cultivars, okay? No notable bark characteristics on this plant. And so When you talk about cultivars, you're looking for different attributes. I have two cultivars that I want you to learn. Coincidentally, one of those is here. It's this specimen right in front of me. This one that's on the right is a different cultivar, but we'll go ahead and mention it in this video. So when you look at standard native magnolia leaves, they're green. You can see that's a significant size leaf. So that's 6-8 inches long. But there is a fuzz on the back side of the leaves, a velvet, if you will. You can see my finger is actually disrupting it right there. But on your native specimens, it's often very barely visible. Many magnolias are bred to have even more vivid velvet. That is really considered a stunning attribute in your landscape, for them to have that very coppery velvet. So as I said, the native one, it's kind of blah. If you have one, enjoy it. They're great trees. But if you have the choice to purchase one, there are some great cultivars out there. So one of the cultivars I want you to be aware of is this one right in front of me. You see, it has darker velvet. It's not as great as the velvet to my right, but it does have a darker velvet. It has a significantly smaller leaf. This leaf is definitely less than 6 inches, very glossy. This is Little Gem. Little Gem was developed by a gentleman named Warren Steed from Candor, who actually provided the funds that built our building, Steed Hall. He was a longtime friend of our program. But along with being a small form, it is known to have a prolonged blooming period. So that's how I was able on August 31st to find a specimen with a bud. And there were many buds on our specimens of Little Gem. So if you'd like to see Little Gem in person, there are two that are espalier on front of Steed Hall, and then there is a screen of them along the backside of the large annual bed. But much smaller foliage, very glossy, blooms for a longer period of time. Another cultivar is called Bracken's Brown Beauty. It's a very cold hardy cultivar, and as its name implies, it's known for this velvet, and it transplants better than a lot. I believe that the one I have here is actually a cultivar called D.D. Blanchard. Both D.D. Blanchard and Bracken's Brown Beauty are very popular in the trade, but of the two, D.D. Blanchard supposedly has the better brown or coppery velvet on the back sides of its leaves. You can see its foliage is much larger than Little Gem, very glossy. This is a handsome plant to have in your landscape, whether it is spring, summer, fall, or winter. It has that interest that you need for every season. Whereas this foliage on my native one is just not so good. Little Gem is getting better, but that is some kind of spectacular. And there are actually places that grow these, and they harvest the foliage or the branches to use for holiday decorations. So they actually don't plant them out in their landscape for ornamental use. They grow them in a farm setting, harvest the leaves and or branches, and sell them for holiday displays. For pests and diseases, Southern Magnolia is prone to weevil damage, and weevil damage is really kind of interesting, and somehow I wound up not getting a specimen in my cuttings today that shows it. But when you see weevil damage, oftentimes it looks like a leaf was shot with shotgun pellets, but they're in a very regimented pattern. Weevils often chew when the leaves are still rolled in the bud before they unfurl, and so when they make their chews, or they chew through the leaf, it goes through multiple layers, and so as a result, when the leaf unfurls, there will be a very regimented pattern of holes across the leaf. So it's very, very distinctive. I often see it on the Little Gems in front of Steed Hall pretty regularly. So when we go on our plant walk, I hope we'll be able to find some. As I said earlier, Southern Magnolia is a North Carolina native. It is a U.S. native. It is not invasive. and it has mild salt tolerance. So you will still see this as we get closer to the coast. This is a very, very attractive landscape tree. Popular, and as I said before, also popular for cuts in the floral industry. In your textbook, this is located on page 598 through 603. We have many specimens on campus, the front of Steed, behind the large annual bed. There's one at the side of the lawn at the Ball Visitor Center. You don't have to look far to see a magnolia. So I'm looking across the street from my house now. There is a magnolia here. There is a magnolia in the property across the park over here. They're just really, really common. And I challenge you to investigate some of the new cultivars that are out there. There are really some dynamic ones to try in your landscape, and they've come a long way in breeding to make some of them much smaller and more usable in the average neighborhood landscape. So give them a try, and I look forward to chatting about these in class. Thanks.